In this video, we're going to compare the Audio-Technica AT2040 dynamic microphone against the Maono PD100 dynamic microphone. Both of these microphones are designed for podcasting, live streaming, and vocal recording, and that's exactly how we're going to test them in this video. First of all, so you know how everything is set up in this video, both of these microphones are mounted to a Rode PSA 1 Plus boom arm. The XLR cable comes out of both of these microphones into the Rode Rodecaster Duo. The Rodecaster Duo, I think, is the best audio mixer for podcasting and live streaming. You can either get this one or its big brother. There's, of course, a million other options as well, but this is what I think is the best, and that's why I'm using it in this video. Now, in terms of setup, both of these microphones are connected to the Rodecaster Duo. They're just on the bone stock dynamic microphone setting, so it just doesn't turn on phantom power is basically what that means. For the AT2040, it has 52 dB of gain, and for the Maono PD100, it has 50 dB of gain. I don't have post-processing turned on at all. You're just hearing the raw feed from the microphone. Next, probably the most important consideration when you're buying a microphone is the price. Unfortunately, I can't put the price in this video because it goes up and down so much depending on where you live and seasonality. As we get closer to the holidays, there's all types of different promos on microphones, but I do have links down in the description below where you can find everything that you see in this video from a variety of online retailers to make sure that you are getting the best price possible. Next, let's talk about looks and overall first impressions. Looks do matter when you're on camera, but I do think both of these microphones look equally great on camera. They both have a matte black finish. They both have some type of logo on them that you can black out if you want to with a Sharpie or something like that. They both kind of have the form factor that you would expect from a podcasting or live streaming microphone. Now, in terms of build quality, both of them are an all metal design. The AT2040 here is an all metal chassis, but there is a plastic mount clip on it. And we're going to talk about that more in a second. That is kind of the weak point of the microphone. On the Maono PD100, it is all metal. It's a slightly lighter gauge than the AT2040, but the mounting system is all metal. So, in terms of build quality and overall value, I would say both of them are very comparable. The AT2040 has a heavier body but a plastic mount, and the Maono PD100 has a lighter body but a metal mount. So you can take your pick there. For the mounting system on the AT2040, you do have this kind of slip sleeve or slip ring that's made of plastic. I do think if you mess with this enough, it will eventually break down. But if you're aware of it and you take care of it, I don't think it'll be an issue. With the Maono PD100, you can see that it uses a more traditional yoke mounted system. It has a half yoke, it's not all the way around on both sides of it. And at the tip of the mount there, it is threaded both ways. So no matter what size of thread you need, you can screw it into a thread on the boom arm here, or you can screw it into a traditional mic stand. It'll fit either one for you just fine. Next, let's run through the specs on both microphones for a foundation of the rest of this video. The AT2040 here is a dynamic XLR microphone with a hypercardioid polar pattern. This means that it is a bit more narrow and more focused on what you're pointed at. It's an end microphone. You speak into the end of this microphone. It has a frequency response of 80 Hz to 16 kHz. It has a sensitivity of minus 53 dB. They don't publish the max SPL, but it does weigh 615 grams or 1.35 pounds. Now for the Maono PD100, it is also an XLR dynamic microphone. It has a cardioid polar pattern, which means it's a bit wider than the AT2040. It's still an end address microphone and has a frequency response of 20 Hz to 20 kHz. It has a sensitivity of minus 53 dB plus or minus 3 dB. It has a max SPL of 132 dB and it weighs 322 grams or about 0.7 pounds. Next, let's take a look at the frequency response. This is really fundamental in terms of knowing what to expect out of this microphone. For the Audio-Technica AT2040, you can see that there's basically a large low cut or high pass filter from 100 Hz all the way down on the low end. There is a slight low cut here centered on 400 Hz. It's only about a dB or two. This will clean up some of that mud in your recording with this microphone. But one of the defining features here of the Audio-Technica AT2040 is this large spike here around 3.5 kilohertz. You can see that it goes about 7 dB high. So this is a pretty big ramp here in the upper mids. What they're trying to do is give more vocal clarity. So if you're live streaming, it'll make this microphone stand out a little bit more amongst your game noise. But if you're podcasting, it might just be a little bit mid forward as to what you're expecting out of a dynamic microphone. Then after that, it comes down to about 7 kilohertz here, and it stays flat through 10, and then the roll off at the high end starts there. On the Maono PD100, you can see some similar characteristics. It's just done a little bit differently here. On the high pass filter, a low cut here goes from 100 hertz all the way down there. So that's a pretty similar low cut there. You can see that around the 300 mark, around 250 is where this kind of like low mid cut is, and it just kind of hangs out down here. And then once you hit these kind of 1.5K, it really ramps up again all the way to 5K before it comes down, and then it falls off after 10K like most dynamic microphones do. Okay, let's do a plosive test. So far in this video, I've had pretty good mic technique. I haven't been breathing into the microphone, so you shouldn't have heard any plosives really. But now let's do a worst case scenario, talking right into the microphone. Peter put peanut butter on his pineapple pizza. 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 Next, let's do a proximity test. This is how the AT2040 sounds when you get really close and the frequency response changes because of the proximity effect. This is how the Audio-Technica AT2040 sounds when you're about a fist away from the microphone. This is how the Audio-Technica AT2040 sounds when you're about a foot away from the microphone. This is how the Maono PD100 sounds like when you're really close to the microphone. This is how the Maono PD100 sounds like when you're about a fist away from the microphone. This is how the Maono PD100 sounds like when you're about a foot away from the microphone. Next, we have a background noise test here for the Audio-Technica AT2040. This is a pretty revealing test as to how much background noise gets in versus the subject that you're trying to record. Next, we have a background noise test for the Maono PD100. This is a pretty revealing test as to how much background noise gets through versus the noise of the subject that you're trying to record. Along a similar vein, if you have shuffling or paper when you're recording a podcast, this is how it sounds like on the Audio-Technica AT2040. Along a similar vein, this is how it sounds like if you have paper shuffling in the background of your podcast when you're recording with the Maono PD100. This is how the Audio-Technica AT2040 sounds when you're speaking right into the microphone. This is how it sounds when you speak into the side of the microphone. And this is how it sounds when you speak into the rear of the microphone. This is how the Maono PD100 sounds when you speak directly into the microphone. This is how it sounds when you speak into the side of the microphone. And this is how it sounds when you speak directly into the rear of the microphone. Next, let's quickly do some handling noise. If you're recording a podcast or a live stream and you need to adjust your microphone, this is how this will sound inside your microphone. Next, in terms of a handling noise test, this is how the Maono PD100 sounds like if you need to adjust this microphone throughout your podcast recording or your live stream. Next, this is how the Audio-Technica AT2040 sounds if you tap on the microphone. Next, this is how the Maono PD100 sounds like if you need to tap on the microphone. This is how the Audio-Technica AT2040 sounds if you add processing from the Rodecaster Duo. This is the generic dynamic microphone processing setting. It has a big bottom, EQ, compression, and a de-esser. This is how the Maono PD100 sounds when you have the same dynamic processing setup from the Rodecaster Duo turned on. It has a big bottom, an EQ setup, compression, and a de-esser to help you know how this microphone would sound like if you added some processing. The processing for both microphones is now turned off. Now let's do a blind test into these microphones. No, it's not the computers. The computers were fine, and the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is indeed 42. The problem is that nobody knew what the question was. No, it's not the computers. The computers were fine, and the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is indeed 42. The problem is that nobody knew what the question was. All right, I just finished editing the first half of this video, so I got to listen to everything exactly as you heard it, and I have some thoughts here. First of all, there are three major things that I look for when I compare microphones like this. I call them deal breakers, but first of all, we have build quality. So overall, I think both of them are within an acceptable range. I do have a note here just around this plastic rotating sleeve on the AT2040. I just don't think it's up quite as good as the Maono. I'd give the Maono more build quality points than the AT2040, which is actually pretty surprising. Next, in terms of plosives, I think both microphones are fine, but I think you could benefit from a foam windscreen of some sort of third-party foam windscreen would give you that extra protection. If you are speaking directly into the microphone, they're both pretty bad with plosives, but this can be mitigated with good mic technique or a quick, inexpensive foam windscreen that you can buy off of Amazon or something like that. Now, the big one for me that I like to mention with the 2040 here is handling noise. If you can't comfortably use the microphone without a huge rumble going into the microphone, that's a problem and that's a deal breaker for me. You'll always hear some handling noise, but compare the two, the AT2040 sounds like you're actually rattling the core of the microphone. There's a really low hum there. Even on the typing test with my headphones when I was listening, you could hear the low rumble from the table going all the way through the boom arm into the microphone. I think there is a fundamental flaw of the AT2040 that it is lacking internal shock mounting, where even the Maono PD100 does a way better job of that internal shock mounting than the AT2040 did. So if you're keeping score so far, I'd say the Maono PD100 is in the lead. And then there's the characteristics of the microphone itself. Now that we've got through all the usability stuff, I think the Maono PD100 sounds way better than the AT2040. With my headphones and my ears, there's almost like a taste of the AT2040 that sounds like it's being run through a telephone. Like that, it just has that mid push in it that it gives more clarity. You can understand and amongst a whole bunch of other sources, but we're not mixing a band here. It's a podcast or a live stream. There aren't a lot of sources that you need to stand out around. So in that case, I think the Maono has a smoother, rounder, more even tone. It's easier to listen to for a long period of time, where the AT2040 has a kind of a sense here that you're speaking on the telephone a little bit, and you're really gonna have to work with the EQ if you want to get a better sound out of it. So what's my final verdict here? I think the Maono PD100 is better than the Audio-Technica AT4040 in almost every way when it comes to podcasting, live streaming, and vocal recording. They both have a little weak spot around plosives that if you are speaking directly into the microphone, they could benefit from a windscreen. But in terms of background noise rejection, build quality, sound, uh, ability, internal shock mounting, all that stuff is better on the PD100. And I think, especially given the price, if you look at the price, the PD100 at the time of this recording is actually quite a bit less expensive than the AT2040 as well. I have no idea how Audio-Technica let this happen because Maono is really just a small up and coming microphone manufacturer. But for my measure, I'd put my money on the Maono PD100. I hope this video has been helpful. If you have any questions about either one of these microphones, please leave a comment down in the description below. If you have any thoughts or opinions that are different than mine in this video with your headphones and your ears, please leave a comment down in the comment section below. Again, if you are looking for current pricing or specs for either one of these, or you want to find out where to buy them, we have links down in the description below. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.